I have no official capacity with the U.S. government, just so you know this. I will say, you know, President Trump has been in office 2 months. It feels like dog years, maybe, perhaps, right? 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. It is a hurricane. Hurricane Trump, I think, is accurate. Now, whether that is part of a strategy, whether that's a concerted strategy, or whether that's just by default, we'll wait and see. But I think a lot of turmoil, a lot of uncertainty, and we'll see how it settles in over the course of time.
You come from a democratic state, you told me.
Well, I come from a Republican state. It's a very odd, it's sort of a purple state, we call it in the U.S., right? It is a Republican legislature, predominantly Republican registered voters, but I have a Democratic governor, so we're sort of a mix in the U.S. of a little bit of both.
And last, again, personal question: do really American citizens supporting? I'm being diplomatic here. Your leading administration calling people from a neighbor country of Romania dictator while they're defending against an aggression, while trying to play ice hockey with the real dictators. How is that perceived in America? Or is it too far? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, you know, it's such an odd thing, I must say. I know the president received the majority vote, right? And so clearly there is a sentiment supporting his policies, or what people thought would be the policies. But I think it's frankly, a bridge too far, and I haven't talked to many people who were appreciative of the way President Zelensky was treated in the Oval Office, to be perfectly frank. I think we lack a decorum, we lack a civility, and I think most Americans, at least the ones with whom I associate, are longing to see some civility. And again, perhaps this is a strategy, perhaps this is a
mess.
No, but perhaps this is a very concerted way of behaving towards maybe a longer goal of a broader foreign policy. That I don't know. It just seems right now to me to be a little bit of tumult, which we all know businesses and governments, private sector, yearn for stability.
Well,
and so I'm hoping we return to some sort of stable conditions, both economically, policy-wise, etc.
The thing is, other European leaders would fear to be treated the same way in Oval Office, which probably would not help, and nobody. How was this development possible in America to go, let's say, on another, let's say, as you said, the voters voted. Don't discuss that here, it doesn't help us anyway. But still there's a development behind, which didn't happen in 1 day, 1 week, even 1 year. How do you think, as a citizen again, mother of children, being somewhere in America, let's say, how was all this possible? Did we mess it up in Europe, not to see that, or maybe not?
Well, don't you think, Marcel, there's a whole sort of movement globally around sort of this nationalism, national pride, everybody's trying to make some sort of sense of the economy, of workforce, people who are feeling perhaps disenfranchised, that they're not seeing the economic conditions that their parents did, and longing for something else. Maybe that is part of the factor. You know, I have a colleague whose theory was, coming out of the pandemic, you had a lot of people that were home during the pandemic, who weren't working, who received some government subsidy, etc. They thought the pandemic was over. What do you mean you have to go back to work, and we have to work hard, and we're not going to be able to achieve? And those people were feeling a bit uncertain. They didn't know what the future held. And then President Trump offered a different point of view from what they had previously experienced under the Biden administration. So that may explain some of the voters. I don't know. I mean, personally, I can't explain it because it's not frankly, a point of view to which I subscribe.
Coming from politics to aero politics. So let's dive deeper. FAA as a keyword. Does all this have an effect on your industry? We come to your airport a bit later. Let's talk about American aviation first.
Let's talk about the industry. I think all of this uncertainty is not good for the aviation industry as a whole. You know, we have our Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, in place. Just this week was announced a nominee for the Administrator of FAA, Brian Bedford, who is a seasoned aviation professional in that he has been the CEO of Republic Airways, a regional carrier out of Indianapolis, Indiana. I think, you know, I have found him to be a very measured, very thoughtful, capable business leader. So hopefully, if, you know, he is confirmed and he is in place in the FAA, then we can start filling some of the positions that have been vacant, you know, have only been served by interim leaders. You know, interim leaders are often willing to make decisions or have any sort of sense of certainty. So I think once we get, hopefully, that administration in place, then the policies will become more clear.